Good morning, students, and happy Wednesday. So here, as you can see, we just have a review worksheet on division. So I normally don't go over worksheets over YouTube because we do them together. And again, we will be doing them over Zoom through our whiteboard program. But just so you get a few samples, if for any reason you're unable to join Zoom or you want to go back to this video and review maybe some tips or concepts that you didn't understand, then I'm going to do a few examples here. So here again, we have unknown variables in equations. That means we have to decide what the letter or the variable means to make the equations true. So on this paper, you have only the division sign that you're more familiar with, the original one, and we're going to do 1 and 2. So here we have to decide t is equal to 72 divided by 8. So what number, if you divide 72 by 8, is going to give you t? So again, just as a reminder, it seems like a lot of students, when they do equations where the letter is to the left here, they automatically want to go this way because it seems like it's backwards and it should be going this way, like 8 divided by 72 equals t. And this is more common with subtraction and sometimes multiplication, but just remember, you're not going this way. You're not saying t is equal to 8 divided by 72 because we're going this way. You're doing t is equal to 72 divided by 8. You're going this way. What is 72 divided by 8? So you can also tell yourself 8 times what would give me 72. So in this case, 72 divided by 8 is 9. So we would write down here 9 is equal to 72 divided by 8. So that means that t is equal to 9. And I like to circle my answer, and I recommend you do that too. Here for number 2, we have 27 divided by 3 equals z. And these are usually the easier ones because it is going in the direction that we are used to. So here we have 27 divided by 3. So that's all you have to figure out, whether it's from memory or you're still having to use a few steps to get there. 27 divided by 3 is equal to 9. So you would write the equation again. 27 divided by 3 is equal to 9. So that means that z is equal to 9. And I'm going to leave it just as is and do the rest with you guys together live over Zoom. But just if you need, you can also go back to yesterday's video, Tuesday, to go over the original division equation video. And here for Wednesday, we have another punctuation unit. This one is called Punctuation, the Writer's Signals. So you've completed Unit 7, and now we're starting a new unit. We're going to practice even more how to use our commas and other punctuation signs. So here it says, use commas to separate 3 or more items written in a series. So we have a few examples of how commas are being used correctly here. So here, for example, we have the people of Japan eat rice, bamboo shoots, and fish. Now notice here that after every noun, there is a comma. The Cub Scouts visited the zoo, comma, went on a hike, comma, and camped under the stars. So notice that when you have written nouns or ideas, you don't want it to go on and on and on, especially adding too many ands. So what I would like to add here is, what you don't want to do is say something like, the Cub Scouts visited the zoo and went on a hike and camped under the stars. Notice how that sounds a little bit redundant and you're overusing the word and. So that's what the commas are for. So we can keep going on, but for the most part, you've learned a lot of this in your previous punctuation unit, but I'm going to take the key facts and the key ideas and remind you. So this is very important here, and you may need to use this as a reference later on when you're doing your language work. So it says here, use commas to separate two or more adjectives, and it's going to explain to you how you can do them wrong, but then how to correct them. And I find this helpful because if you're writing something, you want to know if you're writing it the wrong way or the right way when it comes to placing commas, you can refer back to this. So here it says, never place a comma between the last adjective and the noun that it modifies. So you don't want to say the frisky, furry, comma, kitten. Or I should say that again, the frisky, comma, furry, comma, kitten. You just want to say the frisky, comma, furry kitten. So this one is unnecessary and wrong. You don't want to place a comma after articles. So remember that the articles are these words right here. A, N, and the are articles, and we use those all the time. So over here, wrong, the, comma, frisky, comma, furry kitten, no. If you have placed a comma after an article, then you know that that's wrong and that you have to erase it. The right way would be the frisky, comma, furry kitten. And this may seem like a lot of information, but once you get to writing and identifying and deciding which sentences are right, you'll notice that it becomes easier. And here you have some tests, and these are also helpful because it'll help you decide when you're writing, should I put a comma, should I not? I actually don't know. You can go back to this first page on Unit 8 and do these two tests. So it says, try putting the word and between the adjectives. So if you don't know if you should put a comma, try putting and seeing if it sounds right. The new and apartment building, you wouldn't say that, right? So that means you wouldn't put a comma after new. How about this? Try reversing the order of the two adjectives. The apartment new building? No, that wouldn't make sense either. So no comma is used there. So you're doing actually these exercises on Think A, but for today you're also going to do the back because it's continued here, as you can see, to practice our comma placement and identifying the correct forms. So here it says to use commas to separate the items written in a series in these sentences. So you're going to read these sentences and decide where the comma should be placed using these rules up here. So I'm going to do just one, and you're going to have quite a few similar to this on the next page. But I'm going to do one so that you can then identify with me why the commas are placed correctly. So it says here, the old horse neighed, snorted, kicked, rolled, and finally darted across the prairie. So what I want you to first notice is how I read the whole sentence first. Now, why did I read the whole sentence first instead of just putting commas as I read? Well, how do I know how many adjectives there will be? And remember, I shouldn't be putting commas after the last adjective. So I want to decide how many adjectives are there, and then I'm going to place my comma. So the old horse neighed, comma, snorted, comma, kicked, comma, rolled, comma, and finally darted across the prairie. Notice that I am not putting a comma after finally or darted, and definitely not after and or the. So that's what you're going to do with numbers 2 through 4. And then you're going to go to the back because it continues on the same concept where you have 5 through 10 continuing with the same exercise, putting the commas where they belong. And of course, using this page for reference for rules and tests. Then here for think B, you're going to use commas to correctly separate the adjectives in the sentence. So remember, your adjectives are your describing words. And then if no comma is needed, show that the sentence is correct by writing a C in front of the number. And I'm not going to do that because I don't want to do number 1 first and then put a C. But if you notice that the sentence is correct, right here next to these numbers, you're going to write the letter C. And that means that you did not need a comma. So you're going to read these the same way that you read these for think A, except if you notice that the sentence is already correct, just write C next to it. And then here, you're also going to separate the items. So instead of separating adjectives, you're separating items. Or in this case, items, nouns, is going to be the same thing. And just write in your commas. You don't have to write C because all of these are going to need commas. So here for your Wednesday spelling, you have your vocabulary exercises as usual. And you're very used to writing your vocabulary words and then writing the meaning or the word next to the meaning using either your roots, prefixes, and suffixes or using your spelling dictionary. But the difference between this one compared to most of our vocabulary word exercises is that here for this section for 9 through 12, you're using the vocabulary words to complete the sentences by shape. And we've done shape exercises before, just not usually in vocabulary. But you're going to do it today for these 4, finding which ones fit. And because there are only 4, it's going to be pretty easy to decide which ones fit perfectly. Remember, these are the tall letters. These are obviously the I's. So just make sure that they fit correctly. And then on the bottom, the multiple choice as usual, just choosing the best meaning for the underlined word. So fill in the bubble as normal.